Revelations of Divine Being by Andrew Jackson Davis. Chapter 1. What and Where is God? The mind is incarnated in a physical temple of which the dome is measured by inches, but its thoughts and affections expand in greater dimensions. Earth is too limited, and its materiality is too obvious for the soul. It seeks those living orbs that roll through infinitude. Star after star is counted. Constellations are mapped out like milestones along familiar roads. Still the mind goes on. It reaches the ineffable mysteries of the sidereal heavens and those invisible worlds of grandeur beyond the most distant stars. Amazed at the splendors and harmony, pulsating with joy and the desire to know yet more, the soul demands, what and where is God? The fields of science have been traversed, the beauties of art have been displayed for our contemplation, the religious works of all nations have been searched, that the soul might comprehend and gaze upon the supernal ruler of the universe. But he remains the unseen, uncomprehended Father of all spirits, pure, holy, everlasting, infinite. Belief in God or in a superior power is indigenous to the soul and consequently to all nations and tribes on the surface of the earth. While individual conceptions of God reflect prevailing beliefs for the vast majority, to the mind which thinks independently, such notions will be representative of the person himself, and to this extent, God is in our likeness. They may be scientific, philosophical, or theological. God, considered scientifically, is the greatest fact in the universe, the greatest principle and reality. He is the active or moving principle, contrasted with which nature is moved or passive. He is being, of absolute necessity. Vitalizing all things, he dwells with all substances and elements and individualizes his motion, life, sensation, and intelligence therein. It is true, therefore, that God is nature. Being substance in and of himself, and exerting an active and moving power continually in the empire of matter, it is reasonable to conclude that his attributes and elements are also matter or substance. All his modes of motion may be generalized under attraction and repulsion, or, in the language of harmonial philosophy, as association, progression, and development. But a scientific inquiry into the nature and mode of God is the first and most inferior effort of human reason, and its conclusions are of an external kind, true only so far as they go. Philosophy, on the other hand, considers God in reference to principles, causes, and designs, instead of things, effects, and phenomena, which are the province of science. He is for philosophy the great central source of life, love, order, and form. Nature exists and operates between God and his designs, while the end or issue of such design must correspond to the magnitude and majesty of the inventor. Contemplate that eternal center from which proceeded the innumerable worlds of immensity, and reason will confess that God is positive, but all else negative. Spirit and matter must not be confounded nor separated. When defining spirit, I have been compelled to employ the term matter in the absence of a better word, because it is expressive of substance, and such is spirit. So also the positive mind must not be confounded with nature, nor separated therefrom. God is as distinct from nature as is the human soul from its body. He is personal in the sense that he contains the principles of perception and all other principles. Yet is he not separate from or outside nature. His mode of being and action is determined by that inevitable constitution of things of which he is the unfolder, sustainer, and co-essential. Theologically considered, God is the great Father, Spirit of all spirits. The essential qualities and prosperities of his infinite soul penetrate all nature and all intelligent essences. These qualities and properties are love, understood fundamentally, and thus God is love. Theologically, we think of the inexhaustible sweetness of this love. We think of God's close and unchangeable relation to our most interior selves. We feel a particular providence in our existence, protection from multifarious temptations and accidents in doing of His will willingly. When this view rests, as it should rest always, upon a scientific and philosophical foundation, divested of mystery and supernaturalism, it is a source of unfailing consolation. If God is apprehended as an organized principle, operating according to eternally established laws, so surpassingly righteous that they produce a kind of necessary freedom or independence, then will our spirits bow with intellectual obedience to the will of our Father and experience a beautiful liberty in moving harmoniously with universal nature. It follows that, viewed with scientific eyes, God is a great fact, philosophically a great positive mind, and theologically a great spirit father. The executive element of the great positive mind is will, and the essential element is love. Divine love and divine will, in their governing and directing principle, constitute divine wisdom, eternal, infinite, spread throughout the length and breadth of the universe. In accordance with the rules of analogical reasoning, it is easy to comprehend what God is, and where and how He dwells in the universe. He is the sublimation of all substantial qualities, essences, elements, principles, and in the highest concentration of unity, the crystallization of all that is refined, pure, bright, and harmonious. He resides especially in the vertical encephalon or cerebrum of the universe. The analogy which exists between the divine mind and the universe is therefore established. As the human mind is organized in a finite plane, so is the divine mind organized on an infinite plane. As the seat of human sensation, affection, sentiment, intelligence, and voluntary power is in the brain, so are the qualities, essences, principles, omnipotent power, and eternal omniscience in the sensorium of the universe. The outer universe is a visible manifestation of the indwelling deity. Nature is the body, God is the soul. Nature is the dormitory of all that is unfolded in the great sensorium. God is the cause, nature is the effect. God is the spiritual, nature is the material. Nature is the finite, God is the infinite. The two are joined indissolubly and harmoniously, matrimonially, so to speak, and can never fall asunder. The highest conception which the human mind can attain of the infinite is essentially theological, but the relations which the infinite sustains to the finite, which God sustains to nature, can be comprehended only by a philosophical intellect, and hence such terms as our Heavenly Father and Great First Cause will be understood readily, but the organized principle and the great sensorium of the universe make a deeper call on minds. The great positive mind is love, will, wisdom. Nature is substance, aggregation, universe, and the laws which flow from God into the organism of nature are those of association, progression, and development. God acts upon the universe anatomically. In the structure of planets and in its forms of solar systems, there are manifold indications of a great anatomical law. And insomuch as spirit is a substance superior to matter, which it moves, the formative principle which lies back of and beneath all visible combinations of matter must of necessity contain whatsoever the externals of natures manifest to sense. The series, degrees, associations of structures in nature are expressive of principles contained in the one great principle. God also acts physiologically on the universe. As the acorn develops into an oak, as the germ of all forms produces an ultimate development in its own image and likeness, so the divine mind begets its image and likeness in the human soul. So also it expands and unfolds its celestial and immutable principles into mineral, vegetable, and all animate forms. A great functional or physiological law flows through the labyrinths of immensity. Nothing which manifests life is without functions to perform in the great body of causation, and the forms and functions of material organisms in nature are demonstrations that the great motive power of the universe contains principles of structure and function, which in these attain their ultimate. In the third place, God acts on the universe mechanically, for there is certain sense in which nature is a vast mechanism, of which God is the great inventor, and in its sublime workings the true mechanic on earth can learn of God. From the lowest to the highest he can discern the constant evolution of principles, motives, and forces. The centrifugal and centripetal tendencies of human mechanics imitate, on an imperfect scale, corresponding tendencies and motions among planetary bodies. Once more, nature indicates the modes of divine existence. As the spirit of man acts on his body, so does the spirit of God act upon the universe. But in the fourth place, God acts on the universe chemically, and this divine chemistry is the harmony and perfection of those laws which interlate the great vital principle in its physical organism, that is to say, the boundless universe. The principle of association, which is the primary manifestation of divine love, flows forth into all branches of organic life, and chemical action is its sequence or companion. Such action is indeed one mode of creation. In the fifth place, God acts upon the universe electrically. The divine mind employs electricity as a medium of communication to all parts and particles of the universe, an expression of the unchanging pulsations of his eternal soul. He acts also magnetically. The eternal mind is surrounded by a great spiritual sun, resplendent with emanations of immortal life and beauty. Its essences, principles, and harmonies flow through the whole organism of nature, as the blood and principles of life and sensation flow through man's body. But in fine, God acts upon the universe spiritually, as the great spiritual principle, totality of being, and crown of all. Chapter 2, God revealed to intellect. The true nature of causation must be regarded as the fundamental problem for science, for we can never know anything but causes and effects. They are correlatives in language and in thought. To the question, what is causation, four answers can be given. 1. The skeptical. 2. The material. 3. The pantheistic. 4. The rational or Christian. To assert that man is utterly ignorant of the true nature of causation is total skepticism. To predicate the doctrine of invariable sequence presents the formula of materialism, of which idealism is another phase. Idealism and materialism are identical at the root, but take it for granted that all nature is but a dream show where phenomena are interlinked only by the bond of antecedent and consequent. If we answer that emanation is the only causation, we are landed in pantheism, where all individual existence vanishes, all notion of right and wrong, truth and falsehood. The remaining answer is that which I deem rational, Christian and true. That causation resides in the mind, that matter can never be a cause, and that every phenomenon is the effect of intellectual force exerted by pure volition. This view is now proposed to demonstrate after the rigorous method of geometricians. It may be laid down as a general proposition that the perception of mathematical truth is essentially an attribute of intellect. It follows that to work mathematically evinces mind. Now, all motions of the material universe, in their wondrous variety and unity, are strictly mathematical. I will begin with my own organism. I survey my right hand. It has 5 fingers. I look at my left. This has 5 also. I turn to each foot, and on each behold 5 toes. I think of my bodily senses. These are 5 again. Throughout all members of my body, there runs also a wondrous duality. In my ears, arms, hands, eyes, feet, ribs, and the convolutions of my brain, where equal members balance each other. If the cause which arranged the relations of my several organs understand mathematical harmonies, all is luminous. There is no chance to be calculated against their production, since he who comprehends the relations of number can involve them indefinitely and even infinitely, supposing that he is himself infinite. But if the cause which produces the combinations be not mathematical mind, what are the chances against a single combination of 5s in a pair? And what are they in respect of the millions now living, as of all that have lived and passed away? The algebra of an archangel, with infinite space for his sheet and eternity for the period of solution, might be insufficient for the overwhelming computation. The question therefore recurs, could any cause without intellect to perceive and reason to count produce these invariable questions? We can, however, carry the demonstration that all motions in nature are mathematical through the whole field of phenomena. We may take the invariable ratio between the hydrogen and oxygen in water, of oxygen and nitrogen in atmospheric air, of oxygen and carbon in carbonic acid. Here are a few fragments of the evidence drawn from chemistry. In botany, we may take the first 2 classes of Linnaeus, arranged according to the number of stamens in each flower. We may analyze a flower of the tobacco plant. It is of the 5th class and has therefore 5 stamens. Its corolla has 5 parts and its calyx 5 points. It is so with every tobacco flower on earth. So it has ever been, and so will remain always. We may appeal to the phenomena of light, that wonderful agent which plays such an important part in the processes of creation. We may confine ourselves to the strict algebraic formula of its first law, that the intensity of light decreases as the square of its distance increases, and vice versa. So also the second law, that the angles of incidence and reflection are always equal. Is it possible that the cause which thus geometricists is devoid of all knowledge of geometry? Were there no other proof of the existence of deity, there is one other consideration in the domain of light which should settle the question forever. It is this, that every rainbow is an exact mathematical equation of every other rainbow in the universe. But there is finally the science of astronomy, which is another name for sublimity itself, and there are the 3 great laws of Kepler. 1. That all planetary orbits are regular ellipses in the lower focus of which the sun is placed. 2. That the times occupied by any planet in describing any given arcs of its orbit are also as the areas of sectors formed by straight lines drawn from the beginning and end of the arcs to the sun as a center. 3. That the squares of the periods of the planets' revolutions vary as the cubes of their distance from the sun. We are taught in this manner that nothing but mathematical harmony obtains in all motions within our own sphere. We can conceive of nothing but mathematical harmony in any other region, and as nothing but mind can work mathematically, we behold everywhere about us the unequivocal footsteps of a God. It follows that every effect in the universe is produced by the immediate agency of mind. Matter and mind are 2 logical categories which encompass all thought and exhaust all nature. But matter being passive and unable therefore to originate in its own motions, without which no effect can occur in nature, our search after causal force must be carried into the domain of mind. That it is found there is confirmed by our inner consciousness in the motions of its voluntary activity. Our argument is directed to the present, to things as they are now, to the sublime evolutions manifested before our eyes, and it is proved to us that God is. But it is directed also at the past, and it is demonstrated that he was then, while the eternal uniformity of nature leads us to not a less certain inference that he will continue forever. There is indeed no past or future. The faith that asserts God proclaims all things present to the soul. We repose on the bosom of our Father with a confidence that nothing can shake. Friends may grow cold and change around us. Enemies may combine for our destruction. But we have our immortal friend encircling our souls in arms of everlasting love. Then will I trust him, though he slay me. On the summit of this exalted faith, which is certainty, I rest secure. Nothing can move me more. The sensuous world has vanished from beneath my feet. I live already in the spirit land. The immortal dead are around me. I hear them holding high converse in translucent clouds. It is no night's vision, though brighter than all dreams. I am son and heir of universal empire. I have found God who owneth all. The vessel in which I have embarked may drift whithersoever it will on a measurable sea of being. Impenetrable clouds may hide the stars of heaven, but God guides the storm. Lightnings may rend my sails, but on whatsoever shore the wreck of my bark is strewn, he is sure to be there, with all my love and all my hopes around him. There where he is, it is an open gate of heaven, for there is an everlasting love, and love is heaven. Chapter 3: The Central Sun. The original, self-existent, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent productive power, the soul of all existences, is throned in a central sphere, the circumference of which is the boundless universe, and all around this the sidereal systems revolve in silent sublimity and harmony. This power is what mankind called deity, whose attributes are love and wisdom, corresponding with the principles of male and female, positive and negative, creative and sustaining. The first goings forth or outbirths from the great celestial center are spiritual or vital suns, which give birth to natural suns, being those that are cognizable by the outward senses of man. These again become centers or mothers from which earths are born, each minutest particle of which is infused with the vivifying spirit of the parent formator. The essences of heat or fire, electricity, galvanism, magnetism, are natural manifestations of that positive energy which is the vitalizing cause of all existences. It pervades all substances and animates all forms. The great spiritual and eternal truth which it is necessary for man to know and realize before he can know himself and be happy is that all manifest substances are expressions of an interior productive cause, which is the spiritual essence. The mineral kingdom is an expression of motion, the vegetable an expression of life, the animal an expression of sensation, while man is an expression of intelligence. The planets in our solar system are a perfect expression of the sun from which they sprang. The various combined bodies and planetary systems in the universe are a perfect expression of the great sun of the universalum. The great sun is a perfect expression of the spiritual sun within it, and the spiritual sun is a perfect expression of the divine mind, love, or essence. The spiritual sun is thus the center and cause of all material things. It is a radiating sphere or atmosphere of the great eternal cause, an aroma, a garment of the more interior essence, the divine creative soul. The material universe is a perfect representation of the spiritual universe in which nothing exists but what is everlasting and infinite. The whole material system is the body of the creative soul, and the spiritual essence has unfolded and manifested itself in a material form. This form is the order and wisdom of the divine mind. Light and love constituted the first development of the spiritual sun, and that was light and life, inconceivable, which became illuminated space itself. Yet, space is not limited, neither could it transcend the expansive illuminations of the great spiritual sun. When the universe was completed, order and form reigned omnipresent throughout the whole universalum. Such was the grand and stupendous development of the great spiritual sun, this having developed the material sun, and this the expanded universe. So therefore, far and beyond the countless constellations throbs the heart of life and animation. Its pulses flow to the circumference of all planetary existence. This heart is God, the center of all that is. Previous to the present structure of the universe, when inconceivable realms of immensity were channels through which flowed an ocean of formless materials, the infinite spirit was manifested only as a principle of motion. Incessant, unrestrained, unchangeable, omnipotent action was the first manifestation of deity. It must not be apprehended that God was otherwise than organized intelligence, but there were no media sufficiently unfolded for a higher operation of the creative principle, except motion only. Nor must it be inferred that God is subject to the identical laws of association, progression, and development which proceed from him and operate in all things. These laws are expressions of the Creator's habits, the constitutional tendencies of his divine nature. The God of the universe is not a being of development or growth. He is a fixed fact, a fixed principle, a fixed heart of perfection and infinite intelligence, but he displays the attributes of his being in successive and endless series and degrees, each unfolded in progressive and harmonious order. The great vortex of celestial intelligence, nucleus of omnipotence, center of love, flower of wisdom, is the irresistible magnet which draws upward the human soul. It is the sensorium of the divine mind, the central spring of all action and vitality, the font of magnificence and perfection. He lives through all things, but more especially in the great spiritual sphere or sun of the universe. God is the soul of that universe, which is therefore the body of God and a perfect representative or bold and clear expression of the interior divine mind, even as the human form is an express likeness of the quality of its interior soul. This concludes Revelations of Divine Being by Andrew Jackson Davis. Thank you to Nate Cherboy for making me aware of Andrew Jackson Davis's writings. If anyone has an author or book you would like me to cover, please mention them in the comments. If you received value from this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more audiobook videos. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your support. I'm sending you oceans of love and peace, and I'm wishing you success in all your life missions and purposes. See you soon.